Hey everybody! I'm Amy from Good to Go, and I'm excited to have everybody joining in here live from my kitchen in Los Angeles, California. Sitting next to the window, you might hear some construction over the way because, of course, as soon as I decide to go live, that's when they decide that they want to make the most noise and drill and the like. So I am refreshing the old Good to Go page because I want to know who's tuning in and where you are tuning in from. So let's see. We're going to talk about grief and advanced planning. And, oh, wait a minute. What's this say? Want to know? Yes. Okay. Let's see what's going down. I'm Amy from Good to Go, and I thought I would try to get a community together over grieving and talk about life and death and grief and good stuff like that. So I'm a little early. I'm very early because I always like to be very punctual. So I'm just going to talk a little bit and then wait until some other people might join in. I think that it's really tough when you lose someone, that a lot of people don't understand what that's like, and kind of you feel very isolated. And so I wanted to get people to feel a little less isolated and maybe, hear from others what their experience has been and how they got through the tough times, and any kind of tips that they had, whether it's music or a film or a book or any kind of artsy thing that helps them get through, basically. I want everybody to share. So I wanted to talk today from yesterday when I was on Christina's Facebook Live page, which was really fun. I love Christina Kuzmich. We met speaking at a women's conference last year, and she's been so great, and she cracks me up. But I noticed some of the comments yesterday after our live sesh, and I thought it would be a good thing to talk about. Somebody, let's see, I wrote the name down. Jessie Steeples said, "I wish there was a list of things someone could do to be helpful so people don't have to reach out in their grief." And I think that's in response to a story that I told yesterday, so I'm going to tell it again. Sorry to repeat myself. But basically, when I was grieving after my mom died, I had some friends say to me, I really wish that we could have helped you through your mom's death, because if you would have reached out, we could have helped you. But you didn't reach out. And I just thought, well, wait a minute. How can I reach out and, express what I want if I don't know what I want? When you're grieving, you're in this wilderness of grief. You kind of don't know. And so Jessie posted a really great comment, which was, "I wish there was a list of things someone could do to be helpful so that people don't have to reach out." And so I just wanted to know if you guys have any helpful tips of people or things that people can do to help you. Sorry, it's hard to multitask, hard to read and then do things. Hang on, there we go. And oh my goodness, what's happening? Hello. I want to know where people are watching from, what city, what country, what's happening. But anyway, I thought I would try to get a list from you guys and see what you guys think is an important thing to do for someone who's grieving, so that they don't have to reach out. And I would just like to share a story of when my friend Debbie came over after my dad died. I was just basically at one with the couch, and my couch, as I called it, my boyfriend, and my boyfriend the couch. And she said, "You know what, I'm just going to go do your dishes." And I was like, no, that's fine. I'll get to them, whatever. And she's like, "No, I'm just going to go do them." And she literally went and just did my dishes without me asking her. And that little gesture just meant so much to me. I'm trying to think of what other things people did without me asking that really, really helped. It was definitely a tough time. A friend of mine, Mark, bought me a massage, and even like calling up the masseuse and, making an appointment or whatever, and it's just too much. It's just a lot. So the more work that you can do for the person who's grieving, the better. And so he said, it's all set up. You don't have to tip. I paid for the massage. Just go. So that was amazing. And I didn't even ask him for that. So thanks, Mark, if you're watching. What other things would be nice? I would say, obviously, everyone takes over a casserole, but eventually, hi, Beth Barker. I see you. We're talking about grief and what people can do to make people feel better without them having to reach out. And I'm talking about maybe, obviously, the casserole, the covered dish, the food, because you don't have energy to cook and things like that. So definitely, make food, bring it over, make sure that it's easy. All I have to do is reheat, or maybe, my friend Bonnie and Jim stopped by after my dad died, and she had like prepped this whole like amazing chicken dish, and all I had to do was put it in the oven. And so that, that was easy. Here I am going here. And then, wait a minute. Hi, you're from Maine. I love Maine. I spent a summer in Maine back in the day, back in 1987. Aw, I love you too, Beth Barker Monim. I'm trying to figure out how to see the comments. Look, I'm not the greatest technically. Let's just get it out there. Let's just be honest. This is, talk about it takes a village to help people through grief. It takes a village for my brain to understand how to go live on Facebook. But I'm doing it because Christina was yelling at me to do it. So anyway, so if I get distracted, I'm not the greatest multitasker. But so casseroles are good. Whatever kind of thing that you can do for someone that's grieving that takes the work out of it. And that might even be, going to the grocery and just picking up a few staples, and even if it's too tough for the grieving person to even think of what to put, down on a grocery list, maybe you can figure out an easy recipe and just go get the ingredients at Trader Joe's or whatever your local grocery is, and then just bring it over. So it's just one of those things. And then you could cook it for them. Or, any kind of pampering thing, any kind of thing that brings them joy, would be great. And then also just talking about your loved one that's departed. It's just so important to keep their memory alive. Hi everybody. Oh, you're giving me some loves. That's so sweet. Yeah, it's just really important to talk about your loved ones that have departed, because they're still a part of your life. You can't, just because they pass away, that's, oh wait, Mark says, what's the best way to talk to elderly parents about what they want to do with all their belongings once they pass? They don't have a will and they don't seem interested in talking about death. Mark, hello. Hey Karen, hi. I think the best way to talk about advanced planning and their belongings is just to let them know that you're organizing your advanced planning. So if you say, hey mom and dad, I'm getting my stuff together because I just, if something happens to me and I don't know, and my loved ones don't know what I want, to do with these things, then, maybe that will open the door to them. Or you could just say, look, I just saw this crazy curly-haired hippie lady on Facebook, and she was encouraging all of us to get our advanced planning together, and was telling us the nightmare story of when her mom didn't have anything together and what she went through in the aftermath of her death. And I don't want to go through that. I'm wondering, Mark, if you have any brothers or sisters, because maybe you could kind of tag team them, kind of gang up and say, look, we don't know what you want done with your belongings. And that's another thing I tell a lot of my clients when I do consultations for Good to Go, is that, you don't have to be rich to have a will. I'm not rich, but if something happened to me, someone's got to come into my apartment and get rid of my couch or get rid of my other belongings, and so I want them to have an instruction guide, basically, which is what Good to Go is. Hi, Bernadette. Bernadette says she had the hardest time grieving her mom, and that she decided to just get out of bed for 10 minutes one day. And the next day I made myself get out of bed for 30 minutes, and I kept increasing it each day. Baby steps. That's so great. I wasn't quite able to do the outside thing, even though my grief therapist kept encouraging me. Karen. Oh, Karen says her son doesn't understand that Grampy is not coming back. And I got a lot of messages on Christina's page about how to talk to kids about grieving. And because I don't have any kids, I feel like I'm not the best person to talk about. So maybe we can just throw it out to the floor, and anybody who has kids and has experienced loss in their life, maybe they can go ahead and write down what they, any kind of tips that they can offer for kids who are grieving. Let me see. I'm just scrolling through. But back to Bernadette's amazing tip, which is just to get out of the house or get out of bed for 10 minutes one day. It's so tough because it feels like you're just this grief zombie and you're just wearing this heavy suit of sad, and it feels like it's too much. I mean, even brushing your teeth is too much at some point. But I kept fighting it and thinking, I don't want to feel this way. And it was so confusing because I'd never felt that way before. Sorry about the light. Is that okay? Let's do that. It's a really tough thing, but I had to remember to counterbalance the grief with joyful things. So even though it's really hard, especially in the early days of grief, if you can remember to focus on joy as well and know that your loved one wouldn't want you to be completely incapacitated for long periods of time, that really helped me too, because I thought my mom would not want me to be this devastated. Trust me, she'd want me to be a little devastated. she'd like that attention a little bit, and I'm happy to give that to her. But it's such a tough thing, and I instantly had to go to grief therapy just because I didn't have the tools or the skills to help me through it, and I'd never experienced it before, and it's just so big that, professional help is a beautiful thing. I want to hear from you guys. Where are you tuning in from, and how are you doing? Thank you for sending me hearts. And let's see. Hi, Natalie. What's your opinion on antidepressants temporarily after losing a loved one? Well, I mean, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, but I would definitely say whatever helps. I mean, I've definitely talked to clients who have decided to go that route. I kind of felt that I was on the brink of doing that, but I actually managed to kind of, just with time and a lot of love, because I said love is the only thing that's going to get me through this, kind of helped me get out slowly of that grief cocoon. But if you find that, after a long period of time, like a really long period of time, and I'm not a doctor, so I don't know how long that would be, or, I'm not a psychologist or a therapist, I would definitely, try to talk to a grief therapist and see what maybe is the best option for you. But also just know that maybe you don't need antidepressants. Maybe you're just sad because your loved one died, and that just takes time to heal, I mean, I think in America we definitely want to hop immediately to medication, and trust me, I mean, if Paul McCartney dies anytime soon, I've been through so much grief, I will have to be severely medicated. But it's just up to you. It's up to you to gauge. If you really feel that there really is no kind of hope, if you're starting to feel hopeless, I would definitely talk to your doctor or a therapist and see if antidepressants, just for, a short term to kind of get you over that hump and kind of get you back into the land of the living again, it might be a good idea. But, I'm all for it if it's something that could help you. Hi, Cindy. Cindy says that when her mom passed, her sister took charge, although the paperwork said that everything went to us, took charge and cleared out the, oh, yeah. That's why it's so important to just get all of your needs and everything in writing. You've got to write down your wishes, and then you've got to talk about your wishes and make them known to everybody. And then that way, if you just keep talking about it, it's just going to be rote memory as soon as something happens. Hi, Lisa, joining from Oregon. Thanks for talking openly about this. Well, it's much needed. I mean, I want to kind of bring it out into the light, and so people know that they're not alone. Grief is very isolating. You can be very isolated. Courtney says, oh my God, the same with Paul McCartney, right, Courtney? I mean, he's kind of our musical boyfriend, and I know he's eating his vegetables, obviously, but I hope he's taking his vitamins, because I don't think I could take another devastating loss. I've had so many in the last 5 years. So hang in there, Paul. We love you. Courtney and I love you. You've got to stay with it. But yeah, so we're talking about a little bit about advanced planning, just how important it is to have the conversation with your loved ones, and make sure you write down what you want. And even kind of hypothetical conversations are good, because I remember talking to my dad, and while we were filling out his good to go paperwork, and I said, hey Dad, what would happen if, suddenly you had a stroke, and, what would you expect me to do? And he was living in Ohio because I live in California. And he said, well, I guess I'd just, have to be put into a home. And if he was kind of incapacitated and not able to communicate. And he said, I guess you'd have to put me into a home. And just that one little thing, he said, I know that you couldn't move from California to take care of me because you'd have to uproot your whole life. And so you would just visit me once a month or whenever you could make it out, And so just that hypothetical scenario, that 30-second conversation, if something actually did happen to him and we hadn't had that conversation, I would have thought, well, I guess I have to move back to Ohio and take care of him, even though I'm not a nurse, even though, I'm not a caregiver, but I'll figure it out, But we had that conversation, even though it was somewhat uncomfortable. And so just that little conversation completely takes away any kind of uncertainty or guilt. And that is really important too when you're doing your advanced planning, because it takes away the uncertainty. It can prevent guilt, it can prevent anger, it can prevent family fights, it can prevent all of that uncertainty. What would mom have wanted? What would dad have wanted? Am I doing the right thing? It just takes away all of that guilt. And that's basically the same, that's basically the reason why I created Good to Go. Courtney also said Gene Wilder was hard too. I know, all of our pop culture icons are getting older and they're leaving the planet, and it's so hard because they take a piece of us with them. I know, that was a rough one. I can remember that was just a couple months after my dad died, and I was just like, oh my God, Willy Wonka too now? Like, what is happening? Yeah, that was a lot. Hi, Nikki. Thanks for joining us. So let me tell you a little bit about Good to Go, and then we'll get back to any comments that I can see. What time is it? Yeah, we've got about 5 more minutes really quickly. So I am trying to... Hi, Laura in Japan. Wowzers. What time is it in Japan? Or is it tomorrow? Are you typing from the future? What? Blowing my mind. We're talking about advanced planning and Good to Go, and I do, they're kind of called death Tupperware parties, where someone hosts a party at their home. I show up and I facilitate all of the advanced planning paperwork. And hey, Nikki. Hey, Stacy, what's up? And I do it in a party atmosphere with a rock and roll death theme soundtrack, which you can see all of the songs on the rock and roll death theme soundtrack on my website, which is goodtogopeace.org. And we get potluck dishes to share based on a recipe of a loved one. I've had a lot of people say, well, what if I don't want to bring a potluck dish from like a dead relative's recipe box? And it's like, that's fine too. And I understand that people are busy, so if you don't have time to make Aunt Martha's favorite lemon cake, you know, you can just go buy a lemon cake and bring it. That's fine too. And then everybody brings their own kind of cocktails. And because, you know, if you're going to talk about the hard stuff, you got to drink the hard stuff. Angie says, I love that you do this. I'm hoping to be able to do something similar locally to me. How did you start Good to Go? Funnily enough, I just did it. I got the idea. I knew that after my mom died that I wanted to help people through death and grief. And I joked to my friends, I knew I wanted to do something deathy. And it wasn't until I got trained with a really great organization called the Twilight Brigade, which is an organization that believes that no veteran should die alone. And I met all of these great people who were also obsessed with deathy positive things, you know, like death midwives and funeral celebrants and life coaches and death coaches and things like that. And I kind of shared my idea with them, and they were like, that is a great idea. You should do it. But I felt that I wasn't like a certified life coach. I thought, well, if people are going to pay for this service, I've got to be, you know, certified. And this death midwife friend of mine said, yeah, but you've lived through grief. You've lived through it, right? And you're just trying to prevent other people from going through it, right? And I said, yeah. And she's like, I christen you an expert. And she had a plastic fork spork, you know, and she's like, I christen you an expert. And so then I just started doing it, you know. I just literally decided to go to my hometown. I had a friend, Kathy, who had a yoga studio, who said she'd let me use that as a space. And then I just invited my friends and just, you know, gave them the paperwork and talked to them about what I experienced and the little details that they need to know. And, you know, just as an experiment. And weirdly, it felt really natural and easy. You know, normally, because I was formerly a freelance television producer, I would have organized everything and had it all worked out and what I was going to say and the timing. And then at 8:05, I'll say this and do this. And for some reason, I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to go and I'm just going to share my experience. And then I just started doing it, and I started getting feedback. I started giving them little sheets like, you know, tell me what I could improve or what you want to talk more about, you know, things like that. And then I just did it, and I started doing it, and then word of mouth grew and grew and grew. So that's how I started Good to Go. Let's see, what's Stacy saying? Pick up a recipe from her favorite dead relative's restaurant. That's amazing. Your grandma loved Manhattans. See, I love that, you know. Then we could make Manhattans at a Good to Go party and celebrate your grandma. That's awesome. I love it. They taste like turpentine. I don't even know what's in a Manhattan. I don't think I've ever had a Manhattan. I'm not a huge drinker because I'm such a lightweight, but Manhattans are always fun. I mean, I always think of whenever I get a whiskey sour, that was my grandma's favorite drink, and just reminds me of when I was a kid. So I love, you know, having a whiskey sour on her birthday in her honor. Stacy says that this is hilarious. Her grandma's like a woman after my own heart. She said that her grandma also loved to hit on the waiter. I mean, who doesn't love to hit on the waiter? That's the beauty of getting old, is that you can be completely inappropriate and it's totally fine. It's totes fine. That's hilarious. Stacy, where are you from? Did you already say? I can't remember. I have short-term memory loss. That's another thing. Foggy grief brain. Does anyone else have foggy grief brain? Can anyone else just remember anything? I mean, I can remember the phone number of the boy that I had a crush on in 7th grade, Marco Miller, 855-4204, and yet I can't even remember, you know, where anybody said that they were from. Oh, Stacy's in Massachusetts. Okay, so you're on the East Coast. Hey, Kate. Oh, Kate, you emailed me. I love you and your passion for helping people. And I'm excited to get to Pennsylvania to get you and your peeps good to go. Let's see. Stacy says, if I can pronounce that, I'll buy you a lobster when you're in town. I don't know if I can. Let's see. What else are we doing here? We're going to wrap up shortly. I just want to thank you guys for tuning in to the first Facebook Live. But now that I've got more people, since you might have missed the very beginning, really quickly, someone commented yesterday on Christina's page on the live, said, I wish there was a list of things someone could do to be helpful to people who are grieving so that the person who's grieving doesn't necessarily have to reach out. So what can you do in advance for people who are grieving? And if you guys can think of anything, or if you're watching this after it's archived, because I know it's late, elsewhere. I've got a lot of friends in the UK and Europe, so they're probably going to watch this later. But if you have any tips, please, even after this is archived, put them in the comments. I would love that. Stacy says the idea the other day was that I would write my husband's Match.com profile for him. I think that is such a brilliant idea because, again, it's almost like that little 30-second conversation I had with my dad. Just telling your husband, like, look, before I go, who knows when it's going to be, but I want you to move on, and I want you to, meet someone, and I'm totally down with it, and I'm going to write your Match.com profile. Even that joke, that kind of funny thing, would mean so much if something happened to you tomorrow. That's giving him permission to still have you, in his heart, but then to be able to move through the grief and to, possibly potentially meet someone new. So, Stacey, I'm not going to read that out loud. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But I love that idea of writing your husband's dating profile and just have that conversation. Hey, do you think you'd want to find someone new, or do you it's fine, take your time, but I would love for you to meet someone, and that kind of thing. So these are important conversations to have, even though they might be awkward. Tamia, am I pronouncing your name right? She says, I agree with the food. My mom passed 5 years ago and dad last year. Oh, we're twinsies on that one. Something people can do is just stop saying sorry. Oh, I'm curious as to why you, want people to stop saying sorry. Because I feel like death and grief are such a weird thing that people don't know what to say. So that's just the first go-to, but I have heard from other people that they don't like that. They don't like that. But I'd wonder what an alternative would be. Or what would you prefer people say to you? That's another thing. What about you other grievers and groovers out there? What would you want to say or have people say to you when someone passes away? Angie says that we shared stories